Hi, James here. Today we're going to have a look at a tutorial for making some bubbles in Harmony using the particle system. So this will only work in Harmony because it is using the particle system. So the first thing that you want to look at here is I've made some layers. So all I've done, I made a basic sand layer with a sandy color which is slightly off yellow. I've next created some water which fades to a gradient, so this layer, that's my water. And so if you have a look at my gradient here, I just made a linear gradient that goes from a dark blue to a light blue and fades to nothing. And the reason I've done this before I've started is just because this is very basic and I'm sure everyone doesn't want to watch me do this. This is my bubble outline. And this is my bubble center. So where is my bubble? So let's look at it. So as you can see, I've got the outside of the bubble, which is just a circle, and it's light blue, which is about half opacity on it. And then my bubble center is a radial gradient with some blue in the center. So I'm assuming that at this stage you can all set up your own C-scene. Now with the bubble, you want to create it in the center of the screen. Now I'm going to copy this bubble and I'm going to make a new drawing and paste it. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. So these are going to be all the different size bubbles that I'm going to make. So I'm going to paste it again. I might just put this on so that I can see my previous ones. And one more for a very tiny bubble. So these are all the different size bubbles that are going to appear. So I'm also going to want my scene to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to pull it out to 180 and I'm going to extend the exposure by using F5 of both the sand and the water. And now we're ready to do our particle system. So I like to throw my camera up on this top right window and I use my network view here. So let's clear up my network view a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to insert particle and we're going to put a basic gravity based system. And I'm going to drag that to the front. And so you can see the system here that we have been given. If you press play, it just sort of pours down towards the ground, which is clearly nothing like what we want. So we're now going to modify our gravity-based system. So I'm going to open this up by using this. And now you can see the system that we have. So what I want to do is get my bubbles up into this system. So I'm going to drag that just here. I'm going to break this connection. To grab our bubbles. Break the top connection. We don't need this composite. Go away. And I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to delete this drawing because we're not going to use it. And instead I'm going to connect the bubbles into the emitter. So let's start thinking about our bubble system and what we need to change to start with. First of all, this is clearly way too many bubbles. So let's have a look at the emitter and let's reduce this number of particles. So now you can see it's sort of slowed down by taking the number of particles down to 10. And we don't want to generate particles all the time, so maybe let's take it down to 10%. So let's have a look at that. Let's keep that number of particles up. So let's leave it. I like this sort of setting at the moment. Still too fast, but that's okay. We'll come back. At least we've only got a few now. And that's just because they're disappearing too quickly. So what we're going to do is have a look at our gravity, and the first thing we want to do here is we want our gravity to be going up, and we want it to be going up really slowly. So I'm going to use 0.025. So let's have a look at that. So now they're spawning in every direction, which isn't quite what we want, but they are heading upwards in the y direction. So let's have a look at our velocity. So we're going to use a constant speed. And we're probably going to head 0 in each direction. Oh, we like to use an interpolated speed. Okay, that looks good. So now our particles are only heading upwards, which is just great. So what I also want to do is get the peg, and I'm going to turn animate off, and I'm just going to drag this down to the bottom of our scene. So now we've changed the velocity. You can see they're slowly rising, which is good. So what we're getting this cut off at the top, and what I'm going to first of all do is go out to our emitter and actually turn some of these down. So let's turn this down to 1, like I wanted initially. And that's looking pretty good to start with. So we've got our bubbles slowly rising. So at this point, I'm going to stop, and we'll move on to part 2 after this.